think we'll get started. So good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, shall I say, depending on where you're joining us from today. I'm Evenden, CEO at SMG, and I'm thrilled to welcome you here today to today's Talking Shop webinar, which is a reality check how 2024 retail media predictions have held up so far. Now, we will shortly be joined by some panellists. They are diligently waiting in the wings, so to speak. Dean Harris, head of Co-op Media Network. We've got John Rabone, head of grocery and retail media lead at Mars Wrigley, as well as Georgina Evenden, a lead of Capture. So they will be joining us shortly. But before they do, I'm going to be setting the scene for you. So at the start of 2024, the retail media landscape was buzzing with anticipation. I'm sure everyone on this call is very aware of that. Industry experts and analysts and anyone that wants to kind of have a piece of the pie were making bold predictions about the year ahead. These forecasts were shaped by the tremendous growth we'd seen in retail media just the year before. Our goal today is simple. We want to be really honest about kind of what's actually happened, what's the reality looking like. We want to take stock of the year so far. How has it evolved? What predictions have come true? What new kind of trends have emerged that maybe we hadn't foreseen? And what might be in store, a little teaser as well for the months ahead, for the final 3 months of 2024. So, without further ado, what was it looking like? Before we get really stuck into thinking about what those predictions were in 2024, it's important to provide a bit of context around what was happening in the industry at the end of 2023. Let's begin by acknowledging where we were as an economy at that point. So in the UK, the economy saw a very kind of marginal growth in 2023. It's just 0.1%. So we kind of were still kind of in kind of a very slow kind of economic growth. But actually, when you compare that to this industry, the retail media sector, we saw a very sharp contrast in a significant growth of 12% year on year. So that growth was quite significant if you look at the whole landscape and compare it to that. Really demonstrates the growth and the importance of retail media as a leading advertising channel for brands. According to a report by Criteo, there was nearly 80% of advertisers said retail media was the most effective sales channel for them, which is just phenomenal given kind of how quickly that has changed in recent years. This data highlights, again, the real kind of increasing power of retail media and the kind of need to understand kind of effectiveness. So understanding how channels are performing is absolutely first and foremost of brand advertisers' minds. It provides real kind of, we know that the retail media prefers access to first-party data, allowing them to target consumers at that critical moment in their shopper journey, and that's becoming more and more evident, and that's what kind of brand advertisers are really holding on to and using when they look to see how effective that channel really is. And finally, almost 70% expressed their intention to prioritise retail media in 2024. So again, another signal and a strong indicator that the sector will continue to grow and set up those predictions of 2024, which, you know, we know that we're going to be seeing more platforms, more retailers coming into this space, and it's a vital source of revenue for shopper engagement. So the industry was clearly in a strong position at the end of 2023. Now I'll briefly cover what contributed to this phenomenal growth before coming on to what the predictions were for 2024. So what was happening in the year before? First-party data, we must start by talking about that. It's been a hot topic for a while now, but something that is absolutely crucial to the growth of this sector. In 2023, retailers increasingly leveraged the vast amounts of data they've collected directly from customers through loyalty programs and online interactions. This first-party data has become one of the most valuable assets in their marketing arsenal. Retailers are highly fortunate in this position that they hold a bank of first-party data, especially given Google's plan to deprecate the third-party cookie in 2024, which we all know has actually now done a U-turn on. But I think the scene had already been set, and advertisers were forced to change their strategies to incorporate greater volumes of first-party data as opposed to third-party data for targeting purposes. And unlike third-party data, which is often less precise, and first-party data is direct, we know it's accurate, and we know it's highly actionable, which is absolutely key to what we're trying to achieve. It provides deep insights into customer behaviour, preferences, and purchase history, And it allows retailers and brands to create that real hyper-targeted and personalised marketing campaigns. According to Marketing Week Review, 2023 was a year of significant innovation on how retailers utilise their loyalty data to drive retail media growth. The ability to target ads based on real purchase behaviours and customer preferences enable brands to connect with consumers in a more meaningful way, driving both engagement and that vital conversion as well. The ability to personalise media to a greater extent using first-party data is absolutely critical, and it underpins the aim to both enhance the customer experience and deliver more effective advertising campaigns for brands, and really kind of making sure they were delivering on both sides of that. Retail loyalty programs played a crucial role in this success. Programs like Tesco's Club Card, Sainsbury's Nectar and Boots Advantage have been gathering data for years, but in 2023 this data was increasingly used to power retail media campaigns. And we can continue to see the development of those retail loyalty programs throughout 2023. There's some notable examples are coming from across the globe. Both we saw Morrisons More really kind of launching kind of more personalised campaigns, taking that digitally. Even across the globe, we saw Kroger doing a similar thing, and Sainsbury's again really continue to optimise how they use their Nectar card pricing and thinking about loyalty data in a new way and collecting more data as a result. The first-party data, the first thing that we know contributed to the state of the nation in 2023. Secondly, it'd be amiss of me to not talk AI. Again, I know it's a buzz topic, but we want to kind of look at that today. Is it hype, or is it kind of, has it really had a massive impact on 2024? Well, in 2023, we know it definitely did have an influence. We know that, speaking of personalised campaigns, actually AI is at the heart of that. It played a vital role in delivering the growth of retail media in 2023, enabling retailers to enhance their strategies and deliver more personalised and impactful experiences for consumers. We witnessed AI begin integrated into every stage of the retail media ecosystem, from targeting and personalisation to inventory management and dynamic pricing. Retailers use AI to analyse customer behaviour patterns, purchase history, and even real-time data to create highly personalised marketing campaigns. It also played a crucial role, in optimising inventory management and supply chain operations too. So by predicting demand with greater accuracy, AI helped retailers ensure that the right products were available at the right time, reducing stock outs and overstock situations. So the right products, right place, right time, using AI. AI also empowered retailers and brands by providing deeper insights through advanced data analytics. In 2023, AI tools were used to sift through massive data sets to uncover trends and patterns that might otherwise not have been apparent. These insights help retailers refine their marketing strategies, improve customer targeting, and ultimately drive better business outcomes for both themselves and brands purchasing advertising space in store or online. So that's AI. Thirdly, demand for measurement. Again, a hot topic that I'm sure everyone's very aware of. Measurement in retail media during 2023 was not just about tracking performance. It became integral to strategic decision-making, optimising campaigns, enhancing customer experiencing, and driving overall business growth. With development of media opportunities across the funnel, demand for brands to be able to really measure the efficacy of each media channel grew significantly in 2023. After all, with ad providers encouraging investment kind of more upper funnel channels, brands increasingly wanted to know how campaigns were performing in totality and which channels are really contributing to that total success. So there's a real demand and understanding kind of that measurement and understanding that across the total landscape. And finally, media innovation. We know that in 2023, media channel innovation significantly drove retail media growth by expanding the ways in which brands could actually reach consumers and the number of opportunities they had to invest. Innovations in digital advertising, such as shopwares, live stream shopping, and advanced targeting capabilities allowed for more personalised and interactive customer experiences. And additionally, the integration of retail media with social platforms and the rise of connected TV offered new avenues for engaging with consumers. These innovations enhance the effectiveness of retail media campaigns, attracting more investment from brands eager to capitalise on the ever-emerging opportunities. The introduction of in-store digital media enhanced the in-store shopping experience, allowing brands to deliver dynamic content and real-time promotions directly to shoppers. So lots and lots going on in 2023, and with all of that and that growth in mind, there obviously was kind of big and grand and bold predictions for 2024. But before we dive into those predictions, I just want to give a bit of context of how we arrived at them. We looked at leveraging both the trusted industry reports from across the network, as well as looking at our contacts, understand our own experience, to really ensure that we really looked at what were the true predictions that were consistent across the landscape at the start of 2024. These predictions are grounded in data, informed by direct experience, and they're validated by the key players in the industry. So without further ado, what are the predictions that we really bucketed as 4 key predictions for 2024? Number 1, AI again. So off the back of 2023 and lots going on there, it was predicted that AI would absolutely change the way shoppers find products. And it was predicted to dramatically reshape retail media by delivering greater efficiency, personalisation and innovation. Conversational searching was that first bucket. So we've kind of looked at it in two areas in AI. So we looked at conversational searching first, which is a big focus on where AI would really impact retail media. Everyone's talking about in relation to the way customers would discover new products. So Forbes, amongst other industry voices, predicted that the rise of AI-driven tools, such as chatbots and visual search, would significantly change the way in which shoppers were able to engage new brands. Instacart was the first to introduce this style of conversational searching, but it was predicted that retailers would build experiences that facilitate better discovery and recommendations through a chat experience that allows for that more nuance and personalisation. So for example, if I was searching for a lunchtime snack, it would know that I had a vegetarian diet and it would interact with me on that basis. So it would be clever enough to kind of offer things knowing that pre-defined specification. So when I ask for snacks that are high in protein, the chatbot will consider that previous context that it knows and organise results accordingly to this new parameter, which in itself was going to be a whole new way, produces a whole new way for shoppers to search and discover new products. And then the second bucket that AI was really kind of focusing on was campaign management. So generative AI was predicted to have a big impact on the way in which ad creatives were generated, and administrative or operational aspects of campaigns were managed as well. Beyond creative, it was thought that AI would provide an opportunity to navigate audiences and insights more easily within complex clean rooms and data platforms. This would optimise the way in which audiences were selected for targeting as part of the campaign, both improving the customer experience, but also increasing the likelihood that desired brands' outputs were actually achieved. So 2 big buckets for how AI was predicted to really influence this industry at the start of 2024. The second prediction that we wanted to highlight was how retailers bridge the omnichannel gap with in-store innovation. So really thinking about the new channels that are coming to the fore and how that was going to bridge the gap of omnichannel in retail media. So in 2024, let's look at in-store first. In-store retail media is predicted to become more sophisticated with integrations and with a focus on creating that seamless omnichannel experience. Innovations such as AI-driven personalised content, digital displays, interactive kiosks, all of those things will enhance that shopper engagement in store. And retailers were expected to invest more in technologies that link in-store and online data, so allowing for real-time promotions and tailored customer experiences. Additionally, the expansion of connected stores, so really going to stores and feeling kind of like that line was blurred between your online and in-store experience, and ensuring that the physical shopping environment and the online environment were kind of coming together and making the in-store media a critical component of the total retail media strategy. So really thinking about all of the channels that were going to come into the fore as a result of kind of bridging that gap. And then secondly, the upper funnel. We all know this has become a big kind of part of how we look at retail media and the total landscape that we're operating in. In 2024, connected TV was predicted to play a much larger role in retail media strategies. The ability to personalise media born from AI innovation will make the prospect of activated targeted media via connected TV more appealing and more of a prospect to advertisers. Media will have the propensity to target specific audiences via streaming platforms or reaching potential consumers at home. Given activation on TV is traditionally seen as a broad reach upper funnel kind of activation, the opportunity to highly target this form of activation using first party data will encourage greater investment in upper funnel activations as part of an overall retail media strategy. So that's something that was really kind of talked about a lot at the start of the year. So seeing whether that has come into fruition and how we're really interested when we get to our panel debate. And thirdly, the third prediction that we've kind of identified is that focus on the longer term KPIs and what we're calling the incrementality now finally being cracked. So firstly, if we look at those longer term KPIs, we all know as retail media increasingly unlocks investment in upper funnel channels, the expectation for brands to retailers is that measurement is provided to demonstrate the efficacy of that media. How do we know it performed? How do we know that kind of delivers against our original objectives? Retail data has often been tested in upper funnel environments with a focus on driving that short-term sales, which is often ineffective. It's not how we measure when we're thinking about it as kind of out of home broad reach channels, and so measuring that way just didn't seem kind of fair and consistent. Ian Black from Publicis Commerce suggests that this approach overlooks the very nature of upper funnel inventory, but audiences are usually not in a purchase ready state at that point, such as when they're actually kind of casually browsing social media. Publicis Media predicted that retailers will shift towards using more suitable KPIs like brand awareness, recall, and long-term sales impact, similar to how traditional digital advertising it has always been assessed. This shift was thought to kind of potentially allow retail data to be more impactful in those earlier stages of the marketing funnel, supporting broader brand building efforts rather than just being thought about as that immediate sales driver. And then secondly, the incrementality now. There were other schools of thought that thought upper funnel measurement needs to focus on incrementality, and that was a key buzzword at the start of the year. While retail media presents significant opportunities for brands, measuring its impact and providing return on investment can be challenging, we know, and demonstrating that. As retail media evolves into a comprehensive full funnel solution, these measurement complexities have grown. While the retail media industry has promised benefits like better data, improved shopper experiences, and incremental sales, the actual delivery on these promises has been inconsistent. One major issue is the lack of standardized measurement approaches, making it difficult to consistently gauge the effectiveness of these retail media efforts. So really thinking about how this is going to be made a consistent and standardized approach across total markets, so the brands can truly understand if that sale was an incremental sale, how do I understand that, and being able to kind of look at that in any kind of different part of their total campaign to understand that was going to be key. And finally, prediction number 4. Commerce media networks will emerge at a quicker rate, presenting competition to established retail media networks. So high ad spend within retail media will attract businesses outside of traditional retail. So industries such as travel, hospitality, quick service restaurants are going to start coming into the play. We'd already seen Marriott's international media channel launch in 2022, which was a prime kind of example of signalling that broader trend. But the prediction really was that we're going to see a whole host more of those players come in to the fore, really trying to take part of have a slice of that retail media pie. So more industries, including travel, hospitality, likely to capitalise on the large digital and physical audiences by creating their own media channels. These industries, like retail, are sat on substantial banks of first-party data, they know that that's kind of really vital to this, meaning they can harness this and make it attractive to prospective advertisers for audience targeting purposes. So really thinking about all the different players. You can see there we've got Expedia on the screen. There Expedia's going to come into this world, Marriott, and there's lots more which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment with our panelists as well. So in summary, the 4 kind of key areas that we've identified, that we selected, that were the kind of key predictions at the start of 2024. AI, those 2 buckets we talked about, so kind of conversational searching and thinking about how it's going to impact the campaign management process. Media development, all the different innovation that's going to come in and really bridging that gap between in-store and upper funnel, and thinking about the digital opportunities using first-party data in store and really targeting their campaigns. Thirdly, measurement, and as we said, a big part of that is about showing incrementality, about measuring the channel in the right way for what it's trying to deliver, and also standardising how that's approached across the industry. And finally, this introduction of kind of talking about it as commerce media, so broader than just your kind of what's traditionally seen as retail media, as kind of the top grocers, but actually thinking about it beyond that, specialist retailers, hospitality sectors, travel sector and beyond. So they're the 4 areas we're going to talk about today. And without further ado, I'm going to be introducing our 4 panelists. So I'm going to stop sharing now in order to bring them into the room. So they've been diligently waiting for us in the wings. Hello everyone. So thank you very much to John, Dean and George for joining us. I'm going to hand over firstly to George. Do you want to do a little introduction, George? Just let everyone know who you are and where you're from.
Yes, hello, I'm George Evenden. I lead our capture business.
George, you're on mute, classic mute.
Oh.
Very 2021.
I'm not.
I can hear,
Can you
hear you, George.
Oh, you can? Okay. But
Still
Emma
on
can't.
mute, so I'm going to let John, I think, take over. John, could you introduce
I don't know if it's your sound, Emma, but I can hear George. Can you hear me? Well, I'll introduce myself anyway. While
having a few technical issues, we're going to see if we can sort this out. 1 second, sorry everyone. Dean, are you having the same issue? Can you be heard?
I can hear everyone.
Oh, it's just us. Okay, it's just us that can't hear.
This is going to make for an interesting conversation.
I'm going to let you reintroduce yourselves and have a talk while we try and sort our sound out. Carry on.
George, you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Hi, I'm George. I lead our capture business. We are the UK's leading commerce media agency. I first joined the business in 2015 and left to go and explore the world of digital marketing and ATL marketing, and then returned to the business this year. So fully back in the world of retail media. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you, George. I can hear.
Got a bit of an echo then. So, hi, I'm John Rabone. I lead our grocery online channel at Wrigley and also have the pleasure of leading our retail media proposition in the UK as well.
Busy man, John.
Busy man.
Yeah. Dean Harris, so head of Co-op Media Network, which we launched in January this year as the leading convenience-focused retail media network. So that's me.
Can you hear us, Emma?
So if I've finished the instructions, I'm going blind here. I can't hear you, so I'm going to ask the first question and hope you hear me. So I'm going to dive straight into AI. So I guess the first question really is, I'm going to direct this to you, George. Do we think AI is a craze that will burn out?
No, I don't think it is. I actually think in some respects, especially when you look at particularly like the grocery sector, I think it's barely been lit. I think there's still huge amounts of stuff that we can do and that AI can contribute to the industry, especially when you look at what kind of the tech giants like Google are doing in terms of visual search. They're kind of leading the way, and I think retail can sort of catch up. I don't think we're quite there yet. I also think we need to look at, kind of what's happened in the digital landscape over the last sort of 5 to 10 years with, everything that happened with it becoming super sophisticated with, all the stuff we could do with cookie data. And then obviously the advent of GDPR coming in and reining it all back to something that has actually opened the door to a lot of the first party data from the retailers. But I do see there being a little bit of a ceiling with AI in terms of, actually we could get to a point where we get so smart it's quite scary, and therefore we're probably going to see some regulations coming in that again pull back the reins on what we're able to do with it.
Thank you, George. And our technical issues have been fixed. I'm glad to say I'm back in the room.
Brilliant.
I can now hear you. That was quite interesting. However advanced we get in AI, we're still going to have the cameras on, cameras off, and situation, aren't we? So I'm back in the room. But I'm now going to hand over to John. Anything you'd like to add to that? What's your view on kind of AI and the impact it's going to have? Or is it going to burn out, or is it kind of here to stay?
No, I'd echo all of George's comments. So I think more and more in our work lives, we're seeing AI be integrated. So whether that's for emails, PowerPoint, Excel, content creation, targeting, retail media, I think a lot of aspects of work will start to integrate it, and hopefully it makes all our lives a bit easier. But also we're getting more and more used to it in day-to-day life. So Emma, you mentioned dynamic pricing at the start, and I think we're all used to it in things like holiday bookings and seeing the price of airlines go up just as you're trying to book a last-minute holiday. We're not as used to it when we're trying to buy Oasis tickets and the price is going up drastically. Plug if anyone has any, obviously. I did not get any, you won't be surprised to hear. But everyone got really rattled by that Oasis problem, and we haven't even started touching on dynamic pricing for groceries yet. So I think if that's how annoyed we get in that isolated situation, like what will happen if it moves to groceries, and how do we manage that, and what do we do in that space? But yes, it's here to stay is my short answer.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting you say that, like the AI has so much to give, but it could cause those frustrations as well. There could be challenges down the road, which I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about. So Dean, I'll hand over to you next. I know you've got a lot of thoughts on this as well. I'll start with kind of the key question. Have you integrated AI for audience targeting in retail media at the Co-op?
Slightly controversial, but I don't think, even with the hype and potential, it's a silver bullet, AI. And if I get a lot of LinkedIn messages and cold calls from AI vendors, and the positioning is usually implement AI, replace your operations, and you'll be faster, better, smarter. And if you don't, your operations are going to be dumb and slow, right? There's this sort of with or without it. Whereas I think it needs to be integrated, and there's a bit of balance. We've got great ROIs, and we've got omni-channel planning capability through PlanApp's SMG's tool. And I see AI as more as a catalyst. And I think the exploratory and inquisitive phase has gone on a lot longer, I think, than the market thought it would. I think it was going to be perceived as well, why wouldn't you? Just invest, just change everything now, every aspect of your operation. AI is amazing. But I think it comes down to three things: timing, that balance with your core operations, and when's the right time to introduce it, and lots of testing. I think there's a lot of risks that are very much prevalent in the market around introducing AI too quickly without a thorough appreciation for it. But I think ask me again in 12 to 18 months, and I'll be championing that dream team of AI ad core operations. But yeah, early phases at the minute.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's really interesting, because we talked about it being kind of a key theme in 2023 and a key prediction in 2024. But like you say, it's a big thing that needs time to evolve and kind of grow with us. So on that note, kind of how have you evolved your retail media strategies over this last kind of 9 months of 2024, especially in terms of advancing kind of AI technologies? Have you kind of you evolved that in a specific way?
Yeah, well, Co-op Media Network's less than a year old. So you can imagine when you're launching something, you've got a lot on your to-do list. So the priorities for us were that clear positioning, compelling proposition built around convenience media, and then adjusting our toolkit and our operational processes to align to that convenience offer. But we have discussed and explored AI. As you can imagine, Co-op's a big business, so AI is not just a retail media thing. It goes across everything from supply chain and CRM and everything else in between. And I think there's three areas where it could help us strategically. One is, as we continue to scale, being able to make sure we can support clients with easy, speedy services. You don't want anything like more clients, more campaigns to start slowing down how you service brands. The other will be, and AI can obviously take away some of that evaluation time. The other is complexity. Retail media networks are going across the funnel and across more formats and touch points within there. And there'll be a limit to how human beings can use all those different channels, formats, and historic data points. And being able to plan effectively around that complexity will be really important. And the last one's around performance. You can imagine if you fast forwarded 3 years and you had a retail media network with no AI capability and everyone else had it, there's going to be a significant competitive advantage in the amount of performance and ROI you can deliver for a brand. So I think strategically it comes down to when's the right time to solve some of those problems and tackle some of those opportunities. But yeah, so it's a big part of the strategy, but not in year.
Yeah, it needs to be kind of, like you say, kind of done, kind of considering kind of everything else, the context of how we're growing and doing that at the right point at the right time. And to John's point earlier, I mean, sorry, it's back to you, Dean, again. Have you found kind of there have been kind of kind of real challenges that you've encountered when adopting AI? Do you think that's kind of come through? Have you had feedback?
Oh no, we've lost Emma.
I think I heard challenges in AI, so
Yeah.
I'll pick it up
Let's
from
go
there.
for that.
So taking Co-op as an example, our main barriers to adopting AI are around data foundations, bit of capacity, and risk. So any AI topic I've seen at conferences I've gone to, they all say it's useless or can even hinder if it's not fed with the right data. And if you can name me one UK retailer that says their data is 100% accurate, structured in the right way, and ready to go in media, I'll eat my hat. Like, none of us are perfectionists there with our data yet. And you don't need to be, but you need to be confident. You need to be happy with where you're up to with it. And data infrastructure for retail doesn't always translate into an adequate data structure for media. And media is still a new area for us oil tankers of traditional retailers. So we need to sort that out. Luckily at Co-op, it's not eye-watering, and we've got a data director that's leaning in heavily into making sure the data at Co-op is fit for various purposes, short-term and long-term. So I think we're going to be in a good place. And then, so that's data foundations as a barrier. You need to make sure you're ready to put AI into it. And then there's capacity-wise. So all retail media networks are expanding rapidly, and we're innovating our toolkits, and we're hiring people and adding AI into there, which is a big thing to do. There isn't that capacity, I don't think, to give it a thorough and significant overhaul within the businesses yet. And then lastly, aside from on that risk side, which Co-op's quite a risk-averse business with our brand and our reputation, aside from ChatGPT helping students with their coursework and
my emails.
Yeah, and our emails, yeah, making us sound. But a good tip, by the way, is ask ChatGPT to write your emails like you're a copywriter. But anyway, producing like Toy Story type animations. There's a lot that gets risen around when AI goes wrong, and Co-op will be really risk averse to letting AI make decisions about shopper experience, customer experience, considering our brand reputation and how impactful that could be. So the vision of AI is really exciting. The roadmap to get there isn't as smooth and straight as we first predicted. I think it's bumpy and it meanders around the place, but it's gonna come in eventually.
Thank you, Dean. And apologies, I dropped out there when I asked that question. John, just handing back to you to get the perspective from a brand. How have kind of you seen retailer partners provide more sophisticated tools and targeting options through AI in 2024?
So there's lots within that. So starting with like the retailers and what they can provide. At the moment, it's getting more and more sophisticated in terms of like the audience we can target and how we can target them and the different platforms we can target them on. Ultimately, that's still relatively top line. So we're going after lapsed users, competitor users, brand shoppers, those sort of metrics. We're not really diving into the like individual nature that everyone kind of shouts that AI and retail media can get on a personal level. So are we there yet with retailers, and are retailers currently offering us the tools that maybe we all thought we could when this was first announced? No. Are we making massive strides and headways into the different tools, platforms, reporting, analytics, targeting, all of that with retailers? Absolutely. And then what are we doing as a business? So ultimately, if we're relatively only going after 4 or 5 groups of people, so lapsed, competitor, brands, we're not massively tailoring our artwork at the moment, and we're not massively changing. We might tweak the wording or tweak what we're doing, but we're not massively changing it. And to copy what Dean said, Mars is also relatively risk adverse. So smaller businesses and smaller companies out there, maybe you've got a great opportunity to be much more testing in some of the artwork and creatives that you're creating and how you implement AI in that development process. But yeah, we're starting to explore what AI looks like for us from a creative perspective. But there's a lot of grey area within that, a lot of legal and ethical questions. And what do I mean by that? Is, well, who actually owns the creative? To what extent will it replace humans? Can it be copyrighted? Who owns it? So we can't just create content and put it out there just produced on AI very easily. So there is lots of questions around it. Having said that, we have done a few campaigns. So we're trialing voiceover, so AI generated voice, where we can discuss generative AI that puts I'm sure everyone's seen it on Instagram, but actually puts voice over the top of it, and we started to explore that. But the one big plug that I'll do that Mars have launched, and I would encourage anyone to Google it because it's an amazing campaign that we did earlier this year. We did an AI generated Jose Mourinho. So you could send your friend a Jose Mourinho video where he essentially kind of took the mick out of you for scoring what we called an own goal, so something that you'd messed up on. And that was a real industry first partnership that was with different tech providers that created it. So that was an amazing big campaign. That's not yet embedded into retail media. So that's the sort of thing we're exploring, but I don't think what we're doing as a brand and what retail media networks can currently offer are really joined up yet.
I think we've lost Emma again. It's really interesting you say that though, John, about, you know, what you're doing from a brand perspective and how that joins up from a retail media perspective. From the capture brands that we're working with, we're seeing so much potential with what could be happening with kind of the retailer first party data. And I think for us, the AI is really, you know, kind of fundamental to supercharge what you can do with that data. And then it's actually adding the capabilities of other platforms like a Meta, like a Trade Desk, to elevate that, to deliver that right message at the right time. And then the idea, and not always happening quite in the way we'd like it to, is that you then have this closed loop measurement piece that you can optimize in flight according to all of these different data sets that AI is kind of taking on board and then sort of generating into a campaign that can be really, really successful. So I feel like there's, you know, a difference between what you can do with retail media data outside of the retail media environments versus what you can do within the actual retailers. And I think that's probably the bit that needs to catch up, but also taking on Dean's point that these are big, you know, establishments. There are a lot of legacy stuff going on. There's a lot of things that need to be prioritized for these retailers as businesses. And there are lots of different offerings out there when it comes to AI. So while we're making these big predictions, I still think that they're relevant. I just think that it's moving a little bit slower, as it always does, kind of in the retail world.
And sorry, Emma, we don't need you. You can.
Yeah, you can.
You
Just having a chat.
I'm just gonna watch. I'm enjoying it from the sidelines, and thank you for continuing that. And I think I caught most of the end of that. I think, in summary, I think, you know, what we're saying is that AI is something that is absolutely going to be massive, and we're seeing it come through, but it's going to take longer to kind of really truly integrate into the way we work things. And I think that's we've seen that in 2024 already, and I expect we'll continue to see that as we go into 2025. But on that note, I think it's probably time to move on to our second prediction. We talk about AI all day. I'm going to hand over now and talk a little bit more about the second prediction. So we talked about media development and the kind of innovation of new channels within store, and particularly kind of in the digital space. And I'm going to start off by going over to Dean for this question. Are you using in-store data to create real-time personalised promotion for customers? That's a hot topic for Co-op. So
not quite real time, but not far off it, and definitely personalised. I'll give you an example. So we've got the Co-op member app, which gives every week members 8 offers to choose from. They get to choose 2. And the offers are allocated based on a pool of hundreds of different category offers, brand-based offers. And our in-house data science teams created 2 algorithms to allocate those offers. So one is based on things you buy and predicting when you'll want those things again. And the other is predicting new things that you might like that are associated with things you buy, right? And when we worked out the number of possible combinations of offers, we got there, and I was quite excited about this number because I quickly made comparisons to it. It was 750 quadrillion combinations of offers that these algorithms allocate every single week. Now, if that was seconds, it would equate to 24 trillion years, and it's also 40 times the global population of ants. So you're talking like mega personalized computing power. And we also try and squash the recency of when those offers are allocated. So last week's data fuels this week's offers. So it's up to, and it goes back at least 2 years. So if you talk about real time, that's not far off it. And its extent to that you're never going to get the same suite of offers twice. And it's very unlikely based on those combinations that any member would ever get the same combination of offers as well. So totally tailored, totally unique, mind-blowing numbers. But that's probably our most personalized real-time use of promotions in a shop.
I'm going to remember that stat about the ants. That's great, Dean. I'm going to hand over to George next, just to kind of see from the brand side, from an agency perspective as you are, how can you see kind of when you're working with retailers and really leveraging those connected store technologies? Is that something you're kind of seeing come to the fore more, particularly this year?
Yes, I think we've seen a lot more digitization of the store. I do think that there's more that could be done from a technology perspective. I think at the moment, a lot of the digitization that we've seen has been more run, as you would see a digital tick sheet on a share voice mechanic. I think that it's not been fully realized, but it's also a really tricky one to manage, right? Because wherever you're putting these digital screens, it has to sit cohesively within the retail environment, which is managed by human store colleagues. So there was an example that we had recently with a brand where they had booked a digital screen on top of a gondola end on a share of voice mechanic. But the problem is that the brands being advertised weren't actually on the gondola end. And beyond that, there was actually a competitor on there. So I feel like there's a lot more that can be done here. But as I say, you have to tread really carefully to make sure that it aligns and connects properly with the environment. But having said that, these kind of digital opportunities are far more engaging and driving really, really good results for our brands. We've done lots of test and learns throughout the year, and it's all very, very exciting. And I think, in terms of running things like competitions or partnerships, it's a great opportunity to get your brand message out there. But as always, like the price promotions are always going to drive the higher sales uplift. But yeah, certainly when you're going down more of a brand route, it's more exciting, it's more engaging for the customer. So yeah, some advancements in technology, but with a bit of, nod to the fact that it's still a retail environment run by human beings.
Yeah, I think you're always going to have that, aren't you? However much we advance our technologies, we always know we're working within parameters of something that's always been complex, right? Retail,
yeah, but
complexities and
on the plus side, it's fully compliant. So
well, that's a massive step on, right?
It's a massive step on, yeah, for our industry. It's fantastic. And you get, the feedback on where it's gone live and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely making moves in the right direction.
Compliant media, but as long as it's alongside the right stock, it's in that store. That's the big tick. And like you say, having that partnership and aligning to those challenges is always going to be something we have to kind of navigate in this industry. John, from your perspective, have you kind of found kind of in-store media become more integral to your marketing campaigns? How are you using in-store screens, displays, interactive experiences? That's something that's kind of being a big part of your plans this year.
Yeah, I don't know if more integral is the right word, because ultimately it's made up, depending on your category, 80-90% of sales for a very long time now. And but bear in mind is how retail media has been around for also a long time. So when we talk in-store media and .com media, it's been around for a very long time, and we've invested heavily behind it. And as I'm sure most brands on the call have, most companies still put a hell of a lot of money behind that in-store media aspect. So do I think there's a shift to prioritize it? No. And do I think budgets will come away from it for other aspects? No. I think it's utilizing it and complementing it with other aspects of the funnel. So how do you drive people in store with the same campaign that they see online, that they see on site, that they see on their social media, that they then see on the JCD screen when they walk in the store, and then they see at aisle? Naturally, it's really, really difficult to personalize at aisle. You're going to get media that's there for a month, and to personalize that is very, very difficult. But I think there's starting to be technologies. Dean started to mention it then in terms of mobile apps and things. So in larger store formats like Tesco, where you have scan as you shop, you can go around and scan there. But in smaller store formats like Co-op, actually using your mobile and the app to go around at different points in store to scan and then get personalized offers depending on the point in store that you are, could be a way that you could start personalizing using the different technologies. So do I think connected store is going anywhere? No. Do I think it's getting bigger? Yes, because of how much bigger retail media is getting, not because it's kind of lost, not because the in-store is actually growing, but because everything else is growing around it.
Rising with that tide, yeah, absolutely. And can you see kind of how brands and retailers might want to work closer together to create that unified experience? That's something that we're all kind of working towards, right? It's how we kind of bring the two worlds together. Is that something that you're working more closely with your retailer partners to achieve?
Yes, I think a lot of retailers now have realised that to really operate within the retail media space, you can't. I'd say 5 or 6 years ago, there was a shift to more trade creatives and less branded creatives. And a lot of the research did point to the fact that actually quite a plain banner that communicated a clear price point was a really logical way to go, and it didn't distract the shopper too much. But if you want to really get someone behind a campaign and a journey, absolutely retailers have got to collaborate more with brands and have got to work with brands on campaigns. So I think it's kind of gone in waves, and we're back on the shift that actually to do a big full funnel campaign, we need to work together and they need to be fully branded.
And Dean, what's your perspective on that? Have you kind of expanded or introduced kind of connected store technologies in 2024, and are you working more closely with brands to kind of develop that as well?
This is one of the areas where we need to remember our convenience versus supermarket element, and convenience is a fast mission. So we want to make shopping easier, not harder. So John mentioned like the Tesco scan as you shop. Even things like that are challenging in convenience because you haven't got a trolley. So you usually holding a basket, or you're holding your shopping between your chin and your hand as you're walking around the shop. So you actually haven't got two hands to scan and shop. And so you have to think about the fact that a convenience shopper wants to be in and out in seconds, and minutes is seen as an inconvenience, right? Whereas a supermarket, you're going to do the aisle by aisle walk, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, lots of time to pause, interact, be immersive. And even an area like Boots with cosmetics and scent and those sort of things, you can see how interactive, immersive experiences and connected store would really help. But commercially as well, for convenience, the pack size is smaller, the item value is smaller. So you've got to think about, if we invest in those sort of technologies, they're going to cost money for the brands to invest in. And everyone needs to win. The shopper needs to win, the brand needs to win, and the retailer needs to win. So we have to be quite careful about where we invest in a connected store and experience over that convenience shopper mindset. So that's a key one for us. We have to do what's right for us, not what's right for the whole market. And we can't just follow the herd of Sainsbury's and Tesco down that path. But yeah, where it's right, if we can notice that a member's walked into a shop and prompt them through their app that they've got two offers that they might want to look at, great. But beyond that, we need to be cautious, I think.
Yeah, I think that's, again, a kind of nod to what we talked about earlier with George's comment around as much as we kind of innovate in this space and AI and new digital channels, like we need to continually bring it back to the reality of the environment we're in, right? And you're talking about kind of really kind of thinking about that from the perspective of a shopper and understanding kind of the reality of that moment. I think that's so crucial. And on that note, coming to kind of back to the heart of it, kind of have you seen kind of the developments in these capabilities have an influence on shopper behaviour in store? Do you think that's really kind of, have you seen a kind of a growth on that kind of top line as well?
Yeah, so this is based on case studies I've seen, because like I say, Co-op's main utilization of this sort of connected store experiences through our personalized offers app and things like that, and digitization of our store. I've seen great case studies on it helping the like overseas similar retailers to Boots, with those sort of interactive makeup counter and AI sort of driven immersive educational experiences. You've seen MPD being connected with digital and options and find your flavor or find your color, those sort of things. And it does drive attention and recall. And obviously, I think the sort of average time at like a piece of point of sales noticed is like less than a second. It's a glance, essentially, what you're getting out of it. So if you've got something in a shop that can create seconds of engagement instead of fractions of a second of engagement, you're going to have some benefit there with recall as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely adding value. You've just got to weigh up, as I said earlier, that these things cost money for the retailer. and that's going to equate to a higher price. So just because the engagement is higher doesn't necessarily mean the ROI will be higher if the tech's quite expensive to implement. So we need to think about what's right for the brand commercially as well.
Yeah, short term and long term, like you say.
Yeah.
And that leads on really nicely, actually, because you talked a little bit there about kind of measuring and understanding kind of the impact it's had. And obviously our third prediction was all based on and grounded in measurement. I'm gonna go back over to John, if that's all right, to start kind of really unraveling kind of this prediction around measurement. It's a topic that we've been talking about for years, and it's something that I think really kind of everyone's sitting up and noticing and taking more seriously, particularly in the last 18 months. I guess firstly, kind of, John, are you shifting your retail media investments to focus more on that upper kind of funnel marketing in 2024? Is that something that you've really kind of switched into this year?
So similar to my last answer about, we're definitely not shifting in-store or online spend. So it's not a case of moving one pot of money around to elsewhere. What we are doing is looking at advertising spend and seeing how much of that can be spent with upper funnel retail media. There's challenges with that also, so where the budget sits. So if we're investing more behind customers like that, I know this is a Mars problem, I imagine it is elsewhere. We then get into the realms of, well, how much more are we investing into that specific customer and where should that spend sit? How do we attribute that in terms of our budget planning at the end of year? So no, we're not shifting spend from in-store online. We're trying to attribute some of our above-the-line spend, but exactly how we do that in transparency, we are still definitely working through and trying to figure out.
Yeah, and thank you for being transparent. I think that's a really kind of honest answer across the industry, right? We're all kind of learning and trying to work out how we shift kind of the way we're set up now that the world's moved on. And I like your kind of view of kind of, actually we're not shifting one bucket to kind of go to another. We're looking at it in the holistic kind of view and going, actually, where's the best place to invest as a total kind of marketing strategy overall. And I guess that the key kind of piece that this prediction was all about was like, how do you ensure that you're evaluating these channels in the right way to kind of think about what they're actually there to achieve and deliver? And have you at Mars Wrigley thought about kind of, and how are you kind of evaluating that upper funnel kind of campaigns kind of within retail media? Are you looking at it short term, or are you looking at kind of the long term KPIs it's trying to do?
So again, it's massively challenging. So it's really, really difficult. So this is talking internally to start off with.
Yeah.
So talking internally from our reporting, it's really difficult to put a ROI figure when we've got, if we spend X amount of money on a campaign that crosses in-store, online and off-site, and through that campaign we've also unlocked incremental space because we're agreeing to spend whatever amount of money. So then add all of those things up and get an ROI figure makes it incredibly difficult. And equally, to isolate a single point of media isn't the purpose of doing a full funnel campaign. So yes, we are starting to be able to isolate the different levels of the funnel and get where we think is best to invest. But ultimately, we need to look at the full package and we need to try and figure out a way to get a full package measurement. So that's internally. I've been banging the drum, and Dean and other agencies are sick of probably hearing saying there's still, and everyone is probably aware there's still a lack of standardization of measurement within the industry. So do I think we're at a point yet where we get really clear incremental ROI figures from all the different media agencies that are consistent? No. Is everyone working very, very hard to get there and working collaboratively, I can't say that word, but with suppliers to get there? Yes. And like, it's a journey. We're at the very start of it. I'll actually leave something really interesting. Someone said to me internally that when we started testing meta campaigns for one of our brands, it took several years to see a positive ROI, but we knew that Facebook was the place that digital advertising was moving to. But we continued to test it and tweak it and figure it out because we thought it was the right thing to do. So I believe retail media is going to be an area that we back again, and it probably is going to take a couple of years potentially to see that ROI come back.
And I think we're seeing lots of kind of movements, aren't we, as you say, in that standardization kind of world. The IAB have recently kind of published kind of their report on it and trying to kind of move and bring the industry along with it. I guess, George, it'd be interesting your perspective as someone who's kind of seeing, as an agency does, kind of all the different kind of players and how everyone's doing a little bit differently. What would you say, and all the kind of things that you see come through, kind of what would an ideal campaign performance report look like for you? Like, well, who's doing it well, and what would that look like as a good kind of standardized report?
Yeah, well, I think a lot, just to echo what John was saying about trying to make this holistic full funnel campaign work internally within the brands that we work with at Capture, we are seeing that across the board. Everyone's trying to work out how you make it work cohesively to plan and buy it and measure it across the board. I think for me, a performance report needs to include, the usual conversion metrics, your sales uplift, conversion rate, ROI. And obviously, with Plan Apps and our methodology, we can do that very consistently across a multitude of different media touch points. I think what I also want to see is some of the metrics that we see in other areas of media, like assisted conversions. So starting to understand actually what are the combinations of media that drive the highest ROI and sales uplift. So doing more of those combination studies to just try and figure out if when we're all talking omnichannel, where does that net out on like a brand campaign SKU level for how many touch points is too many touch points? And on the other hand, what media touch points work really cohesively together to drive the best results. I also think that what needs to happen in the retail media industry is that we need to start nodding more to those upper funnel metrics. So obviously we've talked about like brand uplift and all that kind of stuff, but an event I was at recently, they were talking a lot about attention. And I think attention has been a bit of a buzzword in the digital industry, but at this event, they were talking about how they could measure it within the TV world, specifically connected TV. And I think that there's a real opportunity there to understand attention, i.e. engagement with upper funnel, and what that translates to in terms of a sale. And if we can understand that and join those pieces together, I think you can really start to build a much better understanding of what your measurement piece is doing. But beyond that, I just think that we need to be, aware of all the MMM studies that are happening within these brands and just making sure that retail media is being fairly given a chance. I think we often see that there's not enough data and detail that's being provided to the providers of the MMM studies. And because of that, it sometimes gives retail media a bit of a bad review in those circumstances. I think if we can start to, as brands, start to really get the detail into some of those wider econometrics, studies that we're running, and from a retailer perspective, start to look at some of these other metrics that are happening within the wider media industry, then they start to become really, really big players and they can start to meet in the middle a little bit more. But there's definitely a lot of work to be done in the measurement space, I think.
Thank you, George. And Dean, it'd be interesting to hear from your perspective, as exactly as George said, that's something that we've always grappled with, is the way in which we measure upper funnel channels when we think about it in a retail media environment is very different to how we're measuring it as a kind of above the line channel considered for kind of brand awareness and all the things that is traditionally thought of to be delivering against. How do you, as Co-op Media Network, how do you look at kind of measuring the effectiveness of your upper funnel kind of channels that you offer and demonstrating kind of value to brands beyond that short-term sales that traditionally it's going to be measured against? Is that something you look at and talk to brands about?
Yeah, the challenging bit here is that because of closed loop measurement, we can give short-term sales on everything. So we'll be asked to give short-term sales, even if the objective isn't short-term sales. And whenever you've got anything that's got a pound sign on an evaluation report, it doesn't matter what the objective was, that will draw the attention. I think this is one of the risks with these shoppable ads that you're seeing in the US, is those TV ads are supposed to do the brand job with a perk that you can buy the thing now if you want it. And you can quickly see how those brands will start looking at the shoppable conversion as a success criteria for that ad. And you can see that's just an example of how a short-term metric as a nice to have becomes the center of gravity for deciding how campaigns perform. So I think that's quite a hindrance, is how do you say, well, what's the objectives and what metrics do you care about for this activity? And we'll report on those rather than ones that we know aren't relevant to the objective behind that media. And closed loop measurement, actually, in the title, it sounds good, but our halo analysis with our in-store campaign showed that actually when you count all the activity you're generating in rival stores, you're capturing loads more benefit when the purpose of the creative is to do a longer tailed job as well. So it's challenging because of that capability to always provide a short-term metric. The other is perception of the jobs of different media. If you're brave enough to go on LinkedIn and talk about the funnel, you'll get the critics coming out and telling you there is no funnel. The whole thing's a mess. And stop saying that different channels have different jobs. And I think to some extent it's true. If you take a digital out-of-home billboard, could be 5 meters away from a co-op shop window, right? And that does a job of broadcast media. And there's a screen in the co-op window 5 meters away, and that's deemed to do sales driving activity, when really that can do the same job as that billboard. So there's this sort of labeling of different channels and different touch points when they can do different things if you just adapt the creative to be a brand message versus a sale driving message around a certain price point or a certain featured SKU. So yeah, so it comes down to the metrics we want to share and this labeling of different channels when the funnel isn't as clear cut as we like it to be on a PowerPoint slide.
I think you're almost like we're demonstrating that the industry is a victim of its own success, right? We can show data and hey, look at this, but actually that isn't the kind of primary thing that we were trying to achieve in the first place. And I think you nodded to your research you did recently, which is an incredible piece of research where as you nodded to there, understanding kind of not only the delivery of kind of sales in your store, but actually the impact it has on other surrounding stores. I think that kind of serves to really kind of demonstrate that and the kind of the wider impact that these channels can have outside of just kind of that automatic kind of short-term conversion. I guess the final kind of point before we move on to the final prediction is kind of getting your view, Dean, on the kind of the ever-present word in this topic of standardisation. Where do you think how far do you think we're off standardisation? Do you think we've made some good progress this year, and what are your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, and I know it comes out in all the surveys you see, the IAB, the ISBAR studies, anything is, its number one frustration is around fragmentation and standardisation. And there must be this John's perspective of why aren't things changing more? Listen to us. And I think it comes down to 3 things. One is bravery. Second is understanding. And third is collaboration. So I'll quickly go. I know we're short on time, so I'll quickly go through it. The bravery one. Do you think if any retail media networks are not standardized now, they therefore, if they were to become standardized overnight, their ROIs might be impacted? So what counted as an impression yesterday wouldn't be counted as an impression today. So that's going to have an impact on CPM. It's going to have an impact on ROI. So there's going to be some bravery from retailers that aren't standardized to move across if it's going to change the performance they've been reported on. And then that links to the understanding from a brand is that there's going to have to be an iterative process here for retailers to see what's going to what the consequences are of standardizing, and also that it isn't a light switch. Right, there's data, there's technology, and there's operations that are established that you can't just fiddle with and all of a sudden make them standardized. If anyone's read the standardization recommendations, there must be 100 different things that you need to do in the way of anything from terminology to what counts, and they're going to take some significant system changes. Co-op's quite fortunate in this space because we're developing our on-site media propositions, we're developing our off-site media propositions, so we can be standardized early on. But for those more mature retail media networks, there's going to be a step backwards to go 2 steps forwards, I think. And then lastly is, I think this, in collaboration, this is an area that really could create an us and them divide between brands and retailers. And I think we need to face into it and start being a bit more candid about it and facing into it and make it a today topic rather than a tomorrow topic. Because you can see the frustration's only going to bubble over as more money's going to go into the sector.
That's really, really fair. And I guess that's something that at SMG we talk about a lot, is how we can help influence that in the different kind of environments we work in, showing that we're trying to drive that standardization message. But like you say, there's a lot of legacy that's there that's really hard to kind of shift, and it's not going to happen overnight. But something that, like you say, if we're open about it and honest about it, it will help kind of move that forward. I'm going to come on to our final prediction now and talk a little bit more about kind of commerce media in the whole and the kind of broadening of the sector, so to speak. So I'm going to start with this topic with John, if that's all right. Really keen to kind of hear from you as a brand. Like, have you started advertising through kind of media network set up kind of outside of the traditional kind of grocers, kind of any travel, hospitality, kind of different kind of environments that are popping up?
So in short, the answer's not really. the longer answer is we already, so through our media agencies, we already buy mass awareness media through lots of different channels, including Expedia, Booking.com, wherever you want to see media or marketing, we likely buy some presence within those sites. The real benefit is within retail media is buying the data, and you're paying for the data. And for an impulsive brand and a brand that sells impulsive products that don't have any of our data, there's not much benefit in paying the increased prices that come with retail media that we would buy through those platforms. So currently, no. Do I see an opportunity potentially? Like through clean rooms, is there an opportunity for Dean and Co-op to integrate with partners outside of the current retail media network, potentially in the future? But right this second, I don't know why I would personally go and invest in Expedia or Marriott when they don't have any actual data that we could use versus just buying above the line media with them.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree to that actually. I think that the problem is there's lots of third-party data opportunities out there that you can buy and get very similar data from like a MasterCard, for example. You can understand where they're taking flights and what they're doing here and there. But until it's a proposition that's I guess bit more collaborative, as John was saying, with the clean rooms, and actually you start to overlay that data to enhance and enrich your audience portfolio within what we're getting from the grocers, there's not really an appetite there. And I think especially because we're still very much in the infancy of like testing out the first party data opportunities with the retailers that sell these products, I think it's going to be quite a long time before we see anyone start to buy into this stuff when they're not in that industry themselves.
What do you think would need to change, George, to be able to kind of really fulfil the potential of those networks? Because they're out there, right? We've got the likes of Uber and Expedia kind of out there. What do they need to do to kind of continue to grow?
I think they all need to come together.
Yeah.
I think they all need to come together. They need to enrich each other's data by comparing notes, basically, and giving our brands the opportunities to build really rich, bespoke audience segments, pulling in from an Uber and a Marriott and Expedia. That's how you can build a really, really strong audience segment from more of a, again, upper funnel mass awareness, as John was saying, through, trying to reach new audiences. I think it does a different job to what we're talking about in terms of the grocery first party data. That's very much about how can we enhance and drive our sales.
And Dean and Co-op in a wonderful position for me to get off my train where there's data, to then order a taxi where there's data, to then be dropped off at a Co-op on the way to my hotel, to pick up snacks for wherever I'm heading to. So I think there's definitely there is opportunities there. It just takes a lot of collaboration.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's like you say, from a brand perspective, that's the holy grail. They all come together and you can create a cohesive and beautifully kind of targeted campaign as a result. But I guess we all know there's going to be challenges in that. I guess, Dean, keen to get your perspective on this one as a kind of final wrap up. Do you think there's a future where kind of retailers and non-retailers collaborate with brands to kind of deliver a unified and consistent campaign in this space?
Yeah, I think the challenges that John mentions are really valid. I think you've got to look at it across the customer journey, and John gave a great example of that through, for instance, Co-op collaborating with Uber, for instance, and there's a destination that's ticked for drop off right next to a Co-op shop, and you can see how Co-op's own comms team, that would be useful for us to drive footfall into our stores. And if you can find a moment that's relevant for a brand as well, maybe. But there's nothing that shouts out as an opportunity that you'd be daft not to explore. I think these are probably secondary or tertiary to some of the top of the list things that we can do to help brands and help shoppers. So it's probably something that'll be weaved in over time. The collaboration's an interesting one, because if you think about it, in the UK market at the minute, it's retailer and retailer, and on paper we're rivals, right? So there's only so much conversation we can have around making our data more valuable in the media industry for brands, whereas non-compete grocer retail media networks can have more candid, open conversations around technology, around data, around proposition, around effectiveness. And that's an interesting territory from just a knowledge share perspective. So yeah, I mean, I was like chatting to Paul Wright, who's head of global advertising at Uber. He knows his stuff there about all the amazing stuff they're doing. I couldn't have that conversation with someone at Sainsbury's or Tesco.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and probably sets up nicely for the final kind of wrap up bit, really, because I think that's probably an indicator of a potential future prediction, right, Dean? That's something where we could be going kind of next year or the year after.
Yeah.
As a very quick fire round, as a final kind of wrap up for everyone, I'll go to you first, George. Any trends that we haven't kind of covered yet that you think will be start to become important in the next kind of 6 to 12 months that you kind of foresee in your mystic ball?
I actually think it's the attention time metric. I think if, we can start to see that make a play in, retail media and how we understand attention and engagement, that's kind of a gateway for those upper funnel metrics as well, of understanding brand uplift, etc. So if we can start to look at that, you can start to understand the assisted in terms of the conversions, and it's just like, it's quite a nice metric that goes hand in hand with the ROI and the sales uplift that our brands are expecting to see from retailers. So that's probably, for me, the most interesting one.
Well, it's recorded, George, so we're going looking back.
Oh God.
And John, finally, anything from you? Final prediction for the next 12 months that you think you might see coming into the frame?
Yeah, it links to the last conversation, and Dean paid me to say it, so it's so Co-op's leading the way, and that convenience and immediate moment. So we touched on it previously, but instead of just targeting based off, as I said previously, lapsed and competitor shoppers, how do we start targeting on those moments that we just discussed? So how does the data enrich us to target in specific? My shopping's about to deliver. Do I add something? I'm on a journey. What are those key moments we can target in, and not just shopper behaviours?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for joining me today, and for hosting yourself as well at the start there. Sorry about those technical glitches. I very much appreciate your fluidity of continue the conversation. But it's been really interesting hearing all your perspective from both the retailer, brand, and the agency side as well. And I think there's lots of interesting things our viewers would have got from today. And like I say, we will be looking back at this to kind of set ourselves up for next year's webinar when we look at predictions for the year ahead. That leaves me just this kind of point as to our next kind of big event, Retail Media Summit UK. We're really excited to be back again this year. We're so proud to launch the first Retail Media Summit in the UK back in 2023, and we'll be doing that again in 2024 from Battersea Arts Centre this year. So if you haven't already got your ticket, please do go online. Our LinkedIn is all over it at the moment, and that's on the 16th of October this year. So please do sign up. It's going to be full of a lot of interesting content and a lot of looking at kind of what the year ahead is going to hold. So all I kind of is left for me to say is thank you very much for joining us today. I'm really pleased to have kind of had this opportunity to talk to everyone, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.